my mother's yard site is the 29th day of Kislev, and it's the 5th night of Hanukkah. So you're probably asking yourself the following question. If it's in December, why are we doing it in October? Because this is the third time that I'm giving a yard site shiur in memory of my mother at this temple. And every time we would do it in December, it was snow and ice, and it was freezing outside, and no one in their right mind would want to go out. So I looked at the calendar with Nancy in May already. I said, you know, I want to do it again. Let's pick something in November. So I said, November 17th. What could go wrong? Well, my good friends, the Millers, their sons got engaged, and the wedding is November 16th. So what's the problem? It's in California. So the problem is, you know what transportation is like these days, airports, delays. Suppose I was on a plane and there was a delay and I never got here. In the meantime, we had this lecture scheduled. So I called up Nancy. I said, I can't be in two places at once. For my sanity, I don't want to do it on the 17th. So Rabbi Weiss was very gracious to say, why don't you do it October 20th? So that's the reason we can thank Dr. Miller, my good friend, why we postponed it or we made it earlier for a month. My mother, by the way, was very active in many Jewish organizations, UJA, JNF, Hadassah. Her synagogue was the conservative synagogue in Riverdale. She was active in the sisterhood, and she was active in the synagogue as well. And she made many close friends there. And at the end of her life, when she was not herself, I think it was these friendships that helped prolong her life. And when she was ill, it was the people of the synagogue that visited her. So I feel a very strong attachment. I think she really enjoyed her conservative synagogue, and I thought it would be very appropriate to give this lecture at this synagogue. After all, I come to this synagogue every year to read the Megillah, and I've been doing it for many years, and I happen to know many of the people, and I think it's a good choice. Now, what I wanted to do, because originally we had planned to do this in November, was the Parsha that was very close to that Tuesday was Chayei Sarah. So I was going to look at the Haftorah and see what we could learn from the Haftorah. So when we already had switched the dates, I already had prepared everything I wanted to say. So I said, we'll still talk about it, because this way, when you come to that portion, you'll know it all. Okay, now I said the word Haftorah, and before I go into the text, I think we should just give the word Haftorah we should understand what it is. It's always a biblical portion, it's always a portion from the prophets that is read after the Torah. And there are three types of Haftorahs. One is Makbilot Bamikra, parallelism in Scripture. For an example, God told Moses to send spies, and the Haftorah is Joshua sending spies to spy out Jericho. Okay? Or we have the laws of the Nazarite, and then all of a sudden we have the birth of Shimshon, Samson, Hagibor, the strong Samson. Because he was a Nazarite, he could not cut his hair. Or we have the song at the sea, when the children of Israel were saved from the Egyptians. And then we have in the Haftorah the song of Deborah, when she was saved, and the Israelites were saved from the Canaanites. Or we have Jacob is on his deathbed, and the same thing, King David was getting ready to die, and he had his last will and testament. And then in our Parsha, we have Avraham Zakein Baba Yamin. Abraham was getting old, advanced in years. And then we have over here the first word, Melech David Zakein. King David was old. Okay, he was advancing in years. So that's the first type of Haftorah. Sometimes you'll have Haftorot that have a prophetic, it's an idea, it's an extraction. You have to correlate what is the idea of the Haftorah with the Parsha. Sometimes it's not very clear. And the third type of Haftorah is Haftorah Shel Haluach, of the calendar. And the Gemara always discusses that. For example, we have special Haftorah during the 3 weeks between the 17th day of Tammuz, and Tisha B'Av. Then we have a series of Haftorah, 7 weeks of consolation. Or we have a special Haftorah between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Or we have 4 special Haftorot before Pesach. Or this past week we had on Shabbat, instead of reading the regular portion, we read Erev Rosh Chodesh. It was the day before Rosh Chodesh. So those are also different types.